Bet next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsie.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard to follow before it's too dark. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up. It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. But I know it's hard before long, before it's too dark. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another epic day here in 100 days of Rootkit. I hope y'all are excited. Today is going to be more chill, more relaxed. We're diving into HTML and CSS. Very visual, right? Very visual. This is usually the easiest pathway for people to, I'm just switching over my music here, to get into programming because it's the most visual that you can really get while still using a language that is actually applicable. All right, there's a reason why a lot of people are front-end devs, and that market is very saturated. Most of the videos you'll watch online are going to be for front-end developer stuff, using stuff like JavaScript, because it's really easy. It's really easy for you to really understand the programming concepts because there's more of a visual aspect to it. I know for me, I learned, C, C++, Objective-C, all those first, and it was kind of rough. It was kind of rough, to be honest. It wasn't until I was finally recommended to jump into JavaScript, HTML, and CSS where things started clicking a little bit more for me. All right, started clicking a little bit more. So even though it is a saturated market, and everyone and their dog, it seems like, is a front-end dev, it doesn't mean it's invalid. It's just, that's just what it is. It's just saturated, all right? It's saturated, which means there's pros and cons to that. The pros being there's lots of tools out there for the front-end space. It has probably some of the best support you'll find around because the community is very big and very, very vocal, all right? The cons would be there's lots of front-end devs. So job-wise, I mean, there's a good amount of jobs out there, but it may be a little bit more competitive, not because of scarcity, but because there's so many front-end devs. And then pay-wise, you may not make as much compared to other devs because it's such a saturated market, all right? The biggest edge you can give yourself is that UI UX aspect, which we'll jump into here in just a second. Let's go ahead and finish up with our intro, shall we? All right. If you don't know, we are Rootkit, a nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. Just come here. Watch. You're already watching right now. All 100 days, learn, practice, get certified. Then we'll help you get a job. It's just that simple. It really is. On top of all this free stuff we're doing for you, if you go over to the blog section of our site, we have our week 11 giveaway up now and live. So make sure you go over to that, click that green button, and then show you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, following on Twitch, etc., etc. Remember, you have to do this every single week over again to get your new entries. It's not something that just moves forward every single week. What is the item we're giving away? I don't know. We're going to figure out on Sunday. We randomly pull from our loot of items, Alrighty, and then there's a link in the description of the video, and then if you're on Twitch, it's somewhere in the About Us. If you click on that link, it will take you to this site where you can donate. We are a charity, so everything is tax deductible if you're here in the US of A. And depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards, like our epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our exclusive sweater. Additionally, all donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations, which is super, super, super awesome. And we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and shaving my beard, which no one really wants to see, all right, except for my mom. So we don't, our goal is not to hit that goal because no one wants to see it anyways. I'll lose all my powers if we do that, all right? So let us continue on our journey. Any questions before we chug along from the previous day or anything like that, please put into the chats now. While you guys ask any questions, just so you know, I am over in the 100 Days of Rootkit Discord in the events voice channel, so you can hop in there if you're a Patreon or Discord premium member, and you have the capability to chat away. So you can unmute yourself and just ask questions, all right? You don't have to just type in to the chat here. So HTML and CSS, what are they? They're usually paired together because HTML is kind of the scaffolding. So if you think of a house, right? It's always best to try to relate all of these concepts to other things in the real world, all right? HTML is like the scaffolding of a house. So when you first build a house, I don't know if you've ever seen a house being built. Let's look up, let's actually look it up so we can get some pictures. Scaffolding of house. All right, when you first start building a house, you kind of put up, maybe scaffolding isn't the word, but I think this picture does a justice. It's, what do you call it? You put up all of the pillars and, you know, the house doesn't look pretty at first. I'm sorry, I'm struggling on the words here. Yeah, like this. You know, it will look like this. Can I just get the picture, please? There we go. Your house will look like this. It's not very pretty. The structure is there. You know, all these wood planks are making up all the studs are making up the walls and everything, or where the walls will go. You can see the outline of the roof. This is all the actual structure of your house. The important structures, the important aspect. This is what holds everything together. Everything afterwards is mostly cosmetic to an extent, because I mean, of course, you know, your roof is to keep the water off, and then the side paneling is to keep water out and the heat in, stuff like that. But the colors and everything, it's mostly cosmetic. This is the actual foundation per se of the house. This is what HTML is. All right, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and all it is for websites is the core structure. It's just structure. It's not visual in the sense of appealing. It will have structure to it, so things may be in certain areas when you use HTML, but overall, it's there for structure. It's not there for prettiness. It doesn't make anything pretty by default. Every website you ever visit, so for example, this site where we got the photo, anytime you want to inspect or see the original code of the site, because remember, every time you visit a site, you download it to your computer, and your web browser is just a program that executes that code, right? Executes that code, or for HTML, it will render that code. So if you look here, this is all of this right here that you see is going to be HTML. So everything you see here is HTML. So everything in HTML is composed of tags. So that's what you see here, these body tags, these HTML tags. Let me zoom in a little bit more. HTML tag, body or head tag, body tag, div tags, footer tag, right? Everything is called a tag. And these are just the scaffolding. This doesn't actually give you any pretty pictures at all right? This doesn't give you any colors. This literally doesn't do anything except the ugly understructure. And you'll see that here in a second when we start actually programming HTML. Following that, on this panel here called styles, is your CSS. HTML and CSS are usually always together, because without CSS, your website looks like garbage. It looks absolutely terrible. CSS makes it look pretty. It makes it so this bar is here with a little styling on it. You know, this coloring is here. All of these like buttons and circles and everything. This is what CSS does. It makes everything all nice and pretty for us. All right. So it's important to know this. You know, think about a house. HTML, underlying structure. Not pretty, not good to look at. It always really, it's not required to have CSS, but it's almost unusable if you don't have CSS on top of it to make it look good. What's up, Village Slayer? What's up? Any questions so far before we chug along here? I promise HTML, CSS is very, very simple compared to everything else we're doing. All right, this is going to be a nice little, another break for you guys. So, I'll wait another second for any questions before we continue here. All right, I don't see any questions. Go ahead and drop in the questions at any time. Remember, you guys are good to do that at any time. Let me check the Discord here. All right. So, yeah, question. Go ahead, Kamal. Ask your question. Do we have to download anything special for them? No. As long as you have an internet browser, you're good. HTML and CSS are are just generic code that doesn't really execute or get ran except for in a browser. Your browser interprets it and then renders it as whatever visually appealing method you want. Basically, your browser is a rendering engine. It just renders that code into what you want to see visually. And it's totally, again, we're in arbitrary land. It's totally up to the makers of the web browser on how they want to interpret this code. So if you view a site in Internet Explorer, which doesn't really exist anymore, compared to Firefox, compared to Chrome, compared to Opera, they will all look slightly different. That is because they all have different core rendering engines under the hood. Edge and Chrome use the same rendering engine, so websites will look the same on both of them. All right, you can see what rendering engine a website is using by when you go to inspect element over here in your network tab. If you refresh, you'll see a bunch of network connections being sent out. This is you connecting to the site and downloading the website, any pictures, etc., etc. If we look here in the request headers, because we want to look at us making the request, not the response we get back. In the request header, your browser itself usually always tells the server you're connecting to what type of browser you're on, because web developers may send you different code depending on the browser you're on, so that way things look the same across all browsers. This is the biggest cancerous thing for front-end devs, is making things look the same, because it's way better now. Pretty much you're almost guaranteed for most things to look exactly the same across all browsers. But 5 years ago, especially 10 years ago, oh my god, everything looked completely different. There's a reason why Chrome won out, because developers loved Chrome the most, because Chrome didn't just render things the best, but they also included all of the newest, greatest features for HTML and CSS before anyone else did. So that's why they rose to power. Mozilla with Firefox has pretty much stayed neck and neck. So they are both pretty valid browsers. So if we look here in the, is it in the accept? So there's information right here that I'm using Google Chrome. It will usually tell you the version. Chrome isn't the browser rendering engine though. Chromium is what's under the hood. And if we can look here in the user agent string, so this is specifically what I was looking for. Pretty much you'll always get this user agent string. This is how people know what operating system you're on, what web browser you're using, and a bunch of other various information like that, because your browser willingly sends it by default to every single website you've connected to. All right, so you connect to the Rootkit website, guess what? We have all this information. You connect to Google, they have all that information. You connect to some sketchy website, great, they have all that information. All right, it's given by default. So you can see we are passing that we're using Windows 10. All right, 64-bit, so they know that. I'm not quite sure why Mozilla 5.0 and Apple WebKit are here. Specifically the Safari stuff. This is something you may want to Google on yourself, because I'm not a full-on front-end dev. I can do front-end dev stuff, but I'm not a front-end dev. But right here, you can see we're using Chrome 111, I guess, is our version perfectly, which is kind of weird. I'm still confused on this user agent string, because I swear that's not typically what it looks like. But I'll digress. If we pull up something else like Firefox, do I have Firefox installed? How about Opera? Nope. How about Edge? Well, Edge should pretty much say the exact same thing. Let me pull up Edge over here. Edge is not, okay, it's not working right now. So we'll kind of ignore that, but let's continue on. When you say it renders things to look pretty, does that mean the front end? Yes, the front end, CSS, etc. The This is the rendering engine. So user agent string. So Mozilla, which you'll see has a lot of docs that we've referred to before, because they're kind of the pioneer for the newest technology. So here's where we can get information probably about the why it says Mozilla 5.0. Maybe it's because I don't know. It looks like they have the answer here somewhere, but right here is pretty much the. So I believe it's called the Gecko engine for Firefox. That's their rendering engine, and then Chrome is going to be like Chromium. So this is what I mean by like what rendering engine is doing what. Additionally, you'll see when we go, so W3, we've talked about W3 before, all right? W3, and we've gone to their sites a lot before, but W3 is the World Wide Web Consortium. They do a lot, not a lot, they do pretty much all of the regulation in regards to the web world, all right? They pretty much pass and standardize what is what. They're the governing body for the web world, all right? So it's good if you want to be a front-end dev to follow them and stay up to date of what they're doing. They're pioneering. You may or may not have heard of WebAssembly. It's popping off right now in popularity, and so it's pretty cool to see that get integrated more and more. It's effectively a way for you to write a program in something like Python or C# and have it just immediately work in a web browser, which is pretty cool. That's almost impossible right now. You have to do it in just JavaScript or translate it over. But they have a companion school, which a site which we've seen and used a lot. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. This site is great. You should use it a lot. And that's the W3 schools. W3 is the World Wide Web Consortium. This is their school site. They used to only have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because that's pretty much what they used to govern, and I guess some SQL stuff, but they're adding a lot to it. They're adding a lot to it, so it's super, super great. Their certs are pretty much useless. You can still get them if you want, but I've never seen anyone actually take them seriously. I think this is the first time I've seen this bootcamp tab, so I'll have to take a look at that and see what they're up to. And check that stuff out, but it's a great resource for HTML, CSS, etc. So if we click on Learn HTML, they have right here on the side a beautiful, beautiful list of everything you need to do to learn HTML. All right, and you can pretty much go down one by one. You don't need to buy anything. It's all 100% free. I guess they're starting to make a is this YouTube? Some type of video series, which is amazing. All right. This is literally the best resource I think you could possibly get when learning HTML. All right, don't go buying. Look, I'm gonna be honest. Udemy sucks overall. All right, I haven't used Skillshare, so I can't really speak for that. I've used Udemy. I've constantly looked for tutorials on certain subjects. YouTube ones are better. They really are better. Just don't spend your money on this extra crap, all right? Just use YouTube or these other awesome free resources like us, all right? So we can see right here that this is the intro. Well, I guess the next one is the intro, but this is an intro example of HTML. All right, it's very, very easy. Again, HTML is a markup language for web pages. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the OG web language. It was meant for web, all right? If we go ahead and copy all this code, let's go ahead and go over to our VS Code here. Let's make a new folder here for our website. All right, let's open it up. Let's make a new file in here and let's call it index.html. I'll explain later, don't worry. And let's just paste it in here. All right, let's paste the code in here. So I'll give you guys a second to catch up with that. A recap, we just, look, you don't need to just make a folder. You could make a brand new project if you want, all right? This is just what I'm doing, so we just have everything in the 100 Days of Rootkit folder here. This is totally up to you on how you want to do it. I just made a folder called website. Nothing special about that. Then we made a file called index.html. Why is it called index? We'll get to that in a second. You don't have to call it index. All right, you don't have to. I'll explain why it's called index in a second. The important thing is to make sure it has a .html at the end of it. All right. Can you copy and paste the code? Yeah, here. I'll copy and paste this. Oh, that looks terrible. Okay, I'm gonna do it in the Discord. All right. I'm gonna do it in the 100 Days of Rootkit Discord. There we go. So now it looks really, really nice. All right. Go copy this one so it looks nicer for you. Or you could go to the W3 School's website and copy it directly from there. So, how do we view this? How do we view this code? It's a great question. Your web browser is the rendering agent for this. So, if you go to this file, you'll see that you can actually click on it. For me, it has Chrome here. For you, it's whatever default browser you have. If we double click on that, it will actually load it up. And here is our website. We have just officially created a website. It was literally that easy. There we go. Let me pull this one up. This and this. There we go. And all you'll see here is you'll have the as the URL. It's not going to be a URL. It's going to be an absolute path to that file, right? An absolute path to that file. So you can, again, you can do this by double clicking on it, or if it's being weird, you can always just drag it. So I'm dragging it and then drop it onto your web browser, and your web browser will open it up. Or worst case scenario, if you really have to, go to your console here and cd into the website folder, get your path here. All right, so copy your whole path here. Remember, this is missing index.html. Go to a new tab, put that in there, and do /index.html, and then press enter. All right, so there's a bunch of ways for you to bring up your new web page. So let's look at this side by side with the code, shall we? And let's shrink this. I can't shrink this anymore. Close others. There we go. So if we look here, we got a bunch of stuff going on. So again, these are called tags. HTML is a tag-based language, which is just like how XML is. XML looks like HTML. XML, we talked about briefly before, used to be the preferred way to transfer data before JSON became pretty much the preferred way. All right. HTML still is a tag-based language. These tags will usually always have a opening tag and a closing tag. What do I mean by that? Here we have a tag. How do you know it's a tag? It has a less than and a greater than sign surrounding the characters. This is a opening tag, and this is a closing tag. The difference between an opening and a closing tag is the slash. The slash defines it as a closing tag. Now this example I don't like too much because they don't tab anything up. So let me tab things a little bit so we have some structure here. And I'm going to change this to spaces to 2 spaces. There we go. There we go. So now we can see the nested structure a little bit here. So doc type is just describing the document's type. This is basically describing that, hey, we got some HTML down below, right? We got some HTML down below. The thing for HTML is it's very non-finicky. It really wants to render and work, all right? These rendering engines they have in the browsers are really, really great. So pretty much everything you see here is almost optional. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't have to have the doc type. So if we get rid of that and refresh our page, it looks just fine. We don't technically need to have these HTML tags here. So if we get rid of those and refresh, everything looks fine. If we get rid of these body tags here, in these head tags here and save and refresh, everything still works fine. Everything still works fine. It's pretty much optional. All right. It's best to have it, but it is technically optional. And it's funny because if you right click and inspect your web page here, you'll see it's actually all still in here. Why is it still in here? Well, your rendering engine is very, very smart in these browsers, and pretty much it will automatically generate the proper base structure for your HTML code, even if it's not properly made itself. So it knows to put the title in the head tag. So if we open up head here, you'll see the head section has title and everything else goes in the body. So we didn't tell it, let me save and refresh to show, like we didn't tell it that, but it just kind of auto does it. It's a very, 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 very forgiving language, right? It's very, very forgiving. As you can see, we have no pretty pictures. We have no pretty things going on. It's very basic because again, it's all about that scaffolding, right? It's pretty much just scaffolding. Let's see. What do I do to pull up the web page? Again, you just double click on the file, right? Double click on the file, or if you're on VS Code, you can right click, reveal in File Explorer, right? Reveal in File Explorer, and then double click on the file, or you can drag and drop the file onto a browser. So HTML is very, very forgiving. So let's go over what these structured tags are here, right? What these structures tags are here. Again, doc type is just describing what code is below. We have HTML code below, right? It's kind of redundant. HTML means that everything inside here is going to be HTML code. The head and the body are the two distinguishing parts of HTML code, right? Head and the body are the two only major distinguishing things in it, all right? You can, if you are going to do things improper, at least have a head and a body, all right? At least have a head and the body. Now, the head and the body are here for two separate reasons, all right? Mostly they're here for organizational use, because if you look, if I put this H1 tag here in the head and I refresh, you'll see it displays. You'll see it still displays. Because again, these are pretty much kind of just for organizational use only. They don't actually practically do too much, right? This is a very Wild West language, all right? It's best to program to the standard as closely as possible for one major reason only. And it's a major, major reason to program to it: search engines. Search engines. Search engines are going to be looking for properly written HTML code when they scrape your websites in order to figure out how you should rank and what search terms will actually pull up your website. So they are going based off the standards that are published. So it's best to stick to the standard as much as possible in order to appease to the search engine gods as much as possible. All right. This doesn't just go for search engines. This also goes for embeddings. So if you ever shared a post like on Facebook or Instagram or Discord, you'll know that, you get those little embeddings that pop up. Those are based off what is in your head section here. So it's best to have things as proper as possible so they display properly. All right. So head and body, what are these distinguishing sections for? All right. What are these distinguishing sections for? Pretty close to what their terms are, right? Head is for everything that's basically like in real life, your head, right? What's in your head right now? Can people see what's in your head? No, but there's a lot of things going on in your head. You're thinking about things. You're maybe thinking about tomorrow. Maybe you're hungry and you're thinking about that. It's a lot of data or thinking about you, yourself, your situation, and things about you, all right? That's like the metadata of you. So the head is for typically invisible things that affect your website, and maybe also is metadata about your website, right? So what are some examples of this? What do I mean? Title is probably the only exception here. Title usually goes in the head because it doesn't render on the page. Pretty much everything goes into head if it doesn't render directly to the page. Title is the only like middle ground weirdness because it is what sets the title right here of your tab. So now this says page title in my tab here. If I change this to cookies and save and refresh my site, you'll see now the tab says cookies. All right. Title is the only thing that goes into head that is actually visual to an extent, right? Visual to an extent. Everything else is invisible. So if we go to, for example, the W3 Schools site and we right click, go to inspect, everything we see here in the body section, so let me find the body tag right here, is visually findable on the website. What do I mean by that? If you hover over these tags, these ones aren't good examples, but if you hover over these tags, you'll see things on my website here highlight. All right, this top bar is highlighted because this tag visually corresponds with this information. The body is for things that actually render onto the screen. If we close the body and open up the head, these are things you do not see. These are things you do not see as a normal user. These are things for your search engine. These are things for the maybe some for information for the browser. These are things for embeddings. So if you want to share this site on Discord, like what shows up. So you can see here, here's the keywords for Googling or search engine purposes. These are what words they're trying to show up on. Here's a description. So when you search for this page on Google, so if we go to Google right now, you'll actually see this description right here is the description that shows up on Google. So if we go to Google and paste this in here, you'll see if this is the actual link, this should be the, oh, I think it's this one right here. This should be the exact verbiage that we see right here. Well organized and easy to understand web building tutorials. Well organized and easy understanding web tutorials. This is where the description is pulled, right? This is where the description is pulled or put. I guess this page, I guess a lot of these pages have the pretty much the same description, but that's where you'll find it. So this, look, this is not, we're not testing you on any of this. We're just showing you this is where you'll find this information. As you can see, they're labeled Meta because this is not related to Facebook in any way or the company Meta. This is metadata, right? This is metadata. So these are for metadata tags. So you'll see a bunch of stuff in here in regards to that. And all right, I think we're good on that. Any questions so far before we continue? So to recap, head, just like your head, no one can see inside your head, right? It's just information that you're thinking about, pondering about. Same thing with the website. It's information users don't usually see. It's just information about your website, and it's used for search engines and embeddings and where your web browser, other, various reasons. Body, just like your body, everyone can see that. So this is what you want to be flaunting around on your website. So all of your visual stuff will go into the body. Any questions before we chug along here? All right, I don't see any questions. So let us chug along onto the site here. So let's go back to that W3 school site. And let's look at some more examples here. So let's go to HTML introduction. So they have explanations here, pretty much what we've gone through already. This doc type tag is a special one. This is a very special one, and it's just basically telling people it's HTML, specifically HTML5, which is the latest version of HTML. Yeah, it's not required either, all right? And then HTML is basically the root part of your HTML page. Everything inside of that will be your HTML content. Head is for meta information about your page, right? The invisible things. Title is a special tag for usually the tab, the browser tab, page tab. Body is for all the visual stuff. H1 tag is a heading tag. 1 is the largest of them, and P is a paragraph tag. We'll talk about those a little bit more here in a second, so don't really worry about it. All right, so everything is going to be a tag or an element. I guess is probably the looks like the more proper term. So your elements here are, like I said, less than, greater than. Inside of it will have some type of labeling, some type of name. You will always typically have a start and an ending tag, right? This is true for 99% of the use cases. Doc type here is a great example of the exception. And there's a couple other exceptions like BR. But overall, it's always best and safe to have a start and an end tag. We're not taking any questions about the aimbot right now. All right, so let us continue on here for our web browsers. So Chrome, Edge are both going to have the same render engine. Firefox is different, and Safari all have different rendering engines. So you can actually see if you have those different browsers right now, if you actually load up your site, you will see the difference in the rendering engine for each one of those browsers. If you load up the site right now, they will have the text size slightly different in each one. You'll see their default font may be slightly different for each one. All right, there are no rules and regulations in regards to how they or what they exactly have to do. I guess there are like regs they need to try to adhere to, but they're loosely defined to certain extents, so you can have variations. So this is talking more about the structure. So the opening and closing tags are set up so you can structure your stuff with indents in it. This is not a white space sensitive language. Pretty much Python is one of the only major languages that are white space sensitive that you'll come to find out. Everything else is pretty much doesn't matter about how much spacing you have. So you can see here I have a bunch of spacing, and this will not affect the website whatsoever. I can have spacing in this H1 tag, and this won't really affect the site whatsoever. Additionally, I could remove all of the spacing if I wanted. I'm not going to do that right now, and I could have this all on one single line, and it will still look exactly the same. All right, spacing does not matter. All that matters is those tags. And you can see here, just like we can see visually now with those indents that are in here, pretty much every time you, oh my God. Thanks so much for the donation, buddy. Oh God. It's so loud. It's so loud. Alrighty. We're not doing anything with the aimbot right now. So you can ask maybe on Sunday during our chill Q&A. If we have free time. If not, you can just ask in the Discord and someone will be with you. Eventually, most likely. I don't know. Depends on what you're asking. All right. So let us continue on here, shall we? So the as you can see, the tags here, pretty much every time you have a tag that opens, it will generate a new scope, aka things are tabbed up and inside of it. So everything inside the head tag is inside the head tag. And everything inside the body tag is basically inside the body tag. And this is text inside of each one of these individual tags. So let us see here. Some history right here for HTML. When it was first invented, the different iterations of it. So you can see 4 was quite a while ago when it came out. XHTML was like the coolest, newest additions, and it lasted for quite some time before HTML5 came out. I wasn't joking about just a decade ago where it was really wild, wild west. It was very wild, wild west, I'm telling you, until about a decade ago. It was the front-end development game has seen the most amount of changes in the smallest amount of times. It's probably the most intensive, I would say, the most intensive out of all of the paths for a developer in regards to how much you need to stay on top of things, because it changes very fast. It changes very, very fast. All right, so this is going over some editors. We already got our editor set up. So let's continue here to basics. We talked about the basics already. Let's talk about some of these tags. All right, let's talk about some of these tags, shall we? So this is all scaffolding. Like I said, this is all, what do you mean by white space sensitive? What does white space mean? That means the spacing, it's kind of not maybe the most sensical term. It means all of the spacing, right? I guess you could call it maybe transparency spacing. That's too much of a mouthful. It's usually called white spacing because it's just all of the invisible spacing that you see here. So the enters, the spaces, the tabs, that if those things are important to how the language executes, it's white space sensitive. If those do not matter, if the spacing, the tabbing, XYZ do not matter and the language will still execute just fine, then it's not white space sensitive. So this is not white space sensitive. So no matter the spacing, whether I have a bunch of enters here or a bunch of spaces and tabs, it does not matter. When I reload the page, it will always look exactly the same. Yeah, all spaces. So not just the space bar, but the enters and the tabs. Pretty much anything that is spacing on your page here. All right. So by default, again, head and body don't do much. They're more here for organizational uses. We already learned about the title tag, which is a special tag, that will allow you to put some text into the tab. All right, put some text into the tab. Okay, so any spaces that isn't occupied. Yep. All right. So it lets you put text in the tab. You can put any type of text you want in the tab. You can put emojis up there. All right. This does not put the icon here. So you can see they have a little W here as their icon. This is missing an icon because this will not put an icon here. That's a different tag that you put in the head section. Title is just for the tab name. All right, just for the tab name. Over in the body section, we just cleared out our body so nothing shows up. There are these things called header tags. Header tags. There are 6 of them. They're very easy to remember. They all start with H and they all end with a number between 1 and 6. All right. That will 1 through 6 will vary the size. Of it. 1 being the largest, 6 being the smallest. So again, to make a tag, we're going to do an open bracket. All right, open bracket here. Then we're going to say H, and you'll see your editor is actually really, really nice. It's going to bring up a lot of those tags that exist for you automatically. We're going to do an H1. So it has H1 right here. I'm just going to press tab. And you'll see it auto-filled it. And then I'm going to do a closing tag here. And bam, it actually automatically creates, VS Code will create the closing tag. So I don't have to write it myself, which is really, really convenient, right? Really, really convenient. So H1 is for the largest header. What is a header? Well, let's put some text in here. Largest, or let's say just this is H1. Save it and refresh our page. Ooh, that's really large. Header is like the header of a document or the header of a page. It's basically the big, large main text that shows up, right? Big, large, bolded main text that shows up. So if you're making a presentation or something, like the title of your presentation would be the equivalent of a header 1, right? Big, bold text right at the front. Now, we can copy and paste this tag here a couple times. And by couple, I mean, we'll do it 6 times exactly. And we'll change it from 1 to 2, and then this one to 3, and then this one to 4, 5, 6. And then remember, we got to change the closing tags. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then let's change our text in here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if we now refresh our page, you'll see all the varying sizes of H1 all the way down to H6. I thought the page title was the big bold at the top. No, the title here is for the tab. It's the tab title right here. So if I change this to, I don't know, poop, all right, you'll see here when we refresh our page, the tab right here is now called poop. And we can even get the good old poop emoji. And we can copy this and paste it here in the title. And then we can refresh and you can see that now there's the poop emoji showing up. Title, yes, I know it's a little weird, but title is for the tab. Title is for the tab. So, H1s, like you guys can see here, is for heading. Now, you might say, Elijah, I thought you said this is for like scaffolding only. And this looks like it has some styling going on, right? It has some styling going on because these are like, they look like they might be bolded and they're different sizes. This looks like it has styling to it. You would be correct. By default, your browser actually applies CSS to all of these items. So if we click on any of them and you look right here on the CSS section, whoa, I'm on top of it. Here, let me move myself for this. Guess we can move my face and this. There we go. So you're gonna see right here that there's CSS right here in this section, right? This section right here. This is for the H1 tag. If we click on this, this is for the H2. All right, and every browser may have slightly different styling on each one of these. This is CSS that's pre-built in and automatically gets added. By default, HTML has no styling. An H1 tag literally is the equivalent to an H2 tag, besides the name. It's the styling that gets applied and then also the logic that happens from search engines and so forth that give it a little bit more power, a little bit more oomph, right? So, but by default, use your heading tags for important headers. H1 should typically only be used once on a page because that's like your big tagline. H2s and so forth can be used multiple times, all right? Additionally, if you want to be a front-end dev, which we're not catering too much for this cert, using these tags are important, particularly when it comes to ADA compliance. So that's going to be for accessibility. So people that are hard to have, what do you call it, reading issues, sight issues, and want the site to be auto-read to them and selecting content to be auto-read. When you use these tags in their appropriate fashion, you'll automatically get that compliance. All right, it will be your site will be pretty much ready to go. Alrighty, so let's continue on. In HTML and CSS, there's not really, well, in HTML, there's not any if statements or logic or anything like that. It's just scaffolding, right? It's just scaffolding. So we talked about the header tags. Let's go over this other tag we talked about earlier, the paragraph tag. P stands for paragraph. So if you do a P, and make these p tags, this is a paragraph. And if we look at it and refresh, you'll see that it shows up right here. You'll notice that the H6 tag and the H5 tag almost look smaller than the normal paragraph text. All right, because they are. All right, they are. But remember, you can change all this at any time with CSS. All right, we'll get into that here in a bit. The header tags get smaller and smaller. Yes, this is all by default. This is what you get by default. All right, you never usually use the default stuff unless you're a backend dev that doesn't want to deal with front-end stuff. All right, the front-end dev is their responsibility is to make things look pretty and make them usable. All right, because this is a whole ordeal within itself. Right, this is a whole ordeal within itself. So the p tag, again, is just a tag. It's no different than really the rest of them. It gets some default styling applied, and it's usually denoting there's a paragraph here, right? There's a paragraph here. It doesn't necessarily have to be used. A lot of sites you'll see might not even use the paragraph tag. So if we look here, you can see that they're not even using the paragraph tag in here at all. They're using the header 3, this div tag, and they are using a paragraph tag, it looks like. Where I lost it, right here for this information. But I'm trying to get a good example. Is this going to have it right here? So if we scroll up, where's this stuff at? Oh, went too far. Here we go. So you can see right here, we have nicely rendered, cool looking stuff, and it's not in a paragraph tag. You don't have to have things in a paragraph tag, but it is available in your arsenal. You will most likely need to do some additional styling to it because the default stuff out of the box doesn't look that great. So on top of that, we have A tags. A tags or ahref tags or href tags. They go by a lot of different names. This is how you make hyperlinks, right? This is how you make hyperlinks. So if we, I'm going to add the link at the very top so we don't have to scroll down. If we do A, this is a link. All right. If we go to our page now and refresh at the top here, we should see this is a link. Now by default, the A tag, which I believe stands for anchor, is for linking, but you'll notice that I'm clicking on this and it doesn't even look like a link. It doesn't take me anywhere. Why is it not working? The A tag is kind of a two-parter, all right? It's a two-parter. You add the tag A, all right? And then you must add this thing called an attribute, all right? An attribute. What are attributes? Attributes are optional items. So think of kind of like your functions, right? From Python. These are kind of per se your function that you're calling, and then the parameters that you can pass into your function are going to be the equivalent to attributes, right? Going to be the equivalent to attributes. Let me pull up what's a good function example? Like right here, input. Input is a function. Input would be, for example, our A tag in this situation. An input can take a parameter. It's not required. We could have input like this and it will work just fine. But we can give it a parameter, which is a string that will display on the console. Same thing with tags here. All tags have a bunch of attributes that are available to them. You can see them usually when you press space, and sometimes you'll get auto options show up. You can also try to type something and you'll see a bunch of them show up here. You must combine the A tag with an href to complete making a link. So now if we go and refresh, you'll see this shows up as a link now. It's underscored. It may be bright blue for you. When you click on it, it will go to this purplish color. All right. It has a bunch of default coloring based off of whatever browser you're using and the styling attached to it. Now, this is the format that hrefs must be in. You will say href and then equals and then some type of string. So double quotes, and then you can stuff information in there. What do you stuff in there? Well, where exactly you want to link to. Do you want to link to google.com? Do you want to link to another page on your website? Do you want to link on something within the same page? You could have a lot of different links. There are a lot of different links available. All right, I just listed 3 of them. All right, I just listed 3 different types. So one link would be like your external link. So external link. So this link would be something that maybe goes to google.com. So we say HTTPS, you have to do the fully qualified domain name along with the protocol, all right? So https://google.com. So now when we refresh our page, ooh, it turned to that nice blue color. When we click on it, it will go to the purple color because that shows that we've clicked on it. When we click on this, you'll see it sent us to google.com. All right, that's how you can make a external link, right? An external link. You can also make internal links. What is an internal link? Don't do HTTP or any of that other jazz. You can just say slash and then what do you want to go to? So let's make another thing here called slash about.html. This page does not exist, right? This page does not exist. If I refresh and say internal link, or yeah, I'm going to say internal link, and I'm going to add a break here. BR, you can go ahead and add that. This just means break or a line break. Basically, this is a way to force spacing because you can see right here, by default, they will both show up on the same line, even though they're on different lines here because it's just scaffolding. So we have to add this BR here to kind of get things to orient the way we want. So now you'll see they show up on different lines. I'll explain that a little bit more here in a bit. So this is now an internal link. So what's going to happen here when we click on this? We're going to try to go to the about.html page. What do you mean the about.html page? What is that? When did that get here? You're correct. We never made it. All we've made was a page called index.html. An internal link will try to send you to another page on your same server, all right, on your same website. So this will try to send us to a file in the folder that we currently are in, which is the website folder. It will try to send us to the about file, but that doesn't exist. So when we click on it, you'll see that it says it couldn't find it, right? It couldn't find it. More so, it looks like it went to the root directory. So I think we can actually remove that beginning slash. There we go. And now when we click on it, you can see in the URL bar here that we're now looking in that website folder for the about.html file, which does not exist. If we create it, so in our website folder here, let's go ahead and create a new file called about.html. And we'll just say in here, this is about. We won't even include any tags because technically you don't have to. For your HTML sites, the website renderer will handle it for us. So if we refresh now, you'll see it says this is about, right? This is the about page. Maybe we should put this in a H1 tag so it's really, really large so we can see it really, really well. Let's refresh. All right. So now if we're on our index page here and we click on the internal link, it will send us to the about page. And now we can see the about page now exists. So now it shows up. And to make things nice, we can copy this link, paste it in here, and instead going to the about page, we'll say go to the index page, and then we'll just call this go back. Go back. Refresh. So now we have a link here for go back. This will send us back to the HTML page. So you can see here, we have a website with 2 pages. Progress. Isn't that pretty neat? Any questions so far? Any questions so far? we're going to go on break here for 3 to 5 minutes. So play around with this, right? We got pretty pictures now. It's visual. We can see things. Right? It's different than everything we've done so far, right? It's different than everything we've done so far. So please ask any questions while we're on break. Quick recap before we go on break. We showed HTML, not white space sensitive, very arbitrary on how you can make web pages. A lot of stuff here is just scaffolding and used for organizational purposes only. All right. There are pre-made tags for you. There are a handful of pre-made tags for you that will automatically apply light styling. They are not required for you to use. Additionally, when you do use proper tags, you see the most benefit from search engines and other services which are going to be looking for things with a certain format to it. And then we showed header tags, which range from 1 to 6, and it's literally just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we got our paragraph tags, which are going to be with a P. And then we can make links using the A tag. But we can't just use the A tag. We must also add this attribute called href, right? We must add the attribute called href and have that equal to a link. If it's to a full link, it will be an external link. If it's just the name of the page you want to go to, it will be an internal link, right? It will be an internal link. Kamal, if you're having issues, remember, you must refresh the page every single time you make a change to your HTML file, right? You must refresh the page every single time. It does not automatically refresh, right? It does not automatically refresh. Can you switch back to the about? The about is the exact same tag. It just goes to index.html. So it goes back to this first file instead of the about file. So we're gonna go on break. I'll do you one better, Kamal. For this break, I'm going to keep the code and everything up. I'll keep the code and everything up so you guys can see it while we're on break, and we'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes. Right? We'll be back to 3 to 5 minutes. Please ask your questions if you have any questions. All right. Can you guys hear me? Alrighty. We are back. Let me see here if there are any questions. Alrighty. Actually, give me like give me a couple extra bits. Sorry guys. 1 second. Alrighty, sorry about that. Let us continue here. Alrighty, so I don't see any questions. So let us chug along, shall we? Before that, just a quick recap, just in case you guys aren't tracking. We are a Rootkit nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college, don't go to any other boot camp. Just watch, get certified, alright? And then get a job. It's just that simple. On top of all this free stuff we're doing, go over to the blog section of our site. You'll see the week 11 giveaway is live. Go there now, enter to win. All right, just press the green button and then just prove that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, following us Twitch, various other things, and you'll get entries to win some of our merch. What it is going to be, I don't know. We'll figure out together on Sunday when we randomly pull it here live. Additionally, there's a link in the description of this video, and then if you're on Twitch, somewhere down below. If you go to that, it will take you to this site. We are a charity, so all donations are 100% tax deductible, so you can donate to us today. When you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our epic sweater. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. And depending on, we have goals that we're trying to hit along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head, and the one no one wants to see, shaving my beard. All right, no one wants to see that. Let us continue. Right, let us continue. So, HTML is all about that scaffolding. We're talking about links right now. We went over external links. We went over internal links. Now we're going to go over in-page links, or I think in-page links would probably be the most proper name for them. So in-page links, or I'll just say link because this is going to be one singular link. All right. In-page links, what are those? Have you ever clicked on something and it scrolled you down? That's an in-page link. That's linking you to content on the same page. Let's look up TCP on Wikipedia, and you'll see they are the most common users of in-page links. When you click on any of these right here, these are in-page links. This will take us to somewhere else on the page. It links us to more content on the page. You can actually see this link in action here in the URL bar, because it shows up just like everything else that we've clicked on. It will change the URL as we know it. So if you look right now, this just ends with transmission control protocol. If we click on network function, you'll see this # or hashtag network _ function shows up. What is that? Great question. That is the link to this section on the web page. So this is a two-page process, or a two-step process. All right, two-step process. Is it just me, or does let me? There we go. Can we do it like? There we go. I have a little mobile setup. So an in-page link will always be the # or hashtag, followed by some type of term, right? Some type of variable name per se that we want to give. This variable name will link to something else on the page. This variable name must be just like a typical variable, starting with characters, can contain numbers, no spaces allowed, but you can have dashes. I think you can have dashes. You can definitely have underscores. And yeah, I mean, you can play around and mess with it. So right here, we're gonna say, make up a new variable name for this. Let's call it banana, right? So hashtag banana, right? This is a in-page link. If we refresh, you'll see this link is now active. And if we were to look at it, well, if you hover over it at the very bottom, where's this stream at? I guess I'm over it again. If you hover at the very bottom down all the way at the very bottom of the web page, you'll see in yellow the URL. It may be very, very small for you to see on my page, but if you're following along, you'll see that will display the link you're about to go to. And you'll see it's the current page we're on plus the # banana, right? Plus the # banana. If we click on this, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen because where does this go? We haven't set up where it goes, right? Like I said, it's a two-step process. One, you must make the link. Two, you must tell it where to link to. We already did tell it where to link to, which is to the thing with the name banana, the variable name banana. Technically, it's the ID name banana, but we didn't create that element at all. So what we're going to do is, to make this further down on the page, I'm going to add a bunch of these BR tags to really push it down, because this is how we add a lot of spacing. And then I'm going to do a P tag here and say banana. So this is just going to have the word banana really, really far down on the page. If I refresh, there we go. If I refresh, you'll see we can scroll down and banana is here at the bottom. So when I click this link, still nothing happens, but I want to make it so when I click this link, it scrolls us down here to the bottom where banana is. So there's one last step. We started talking about these things called attributes. We talked about the href attribute, which is a part of the A tag. all the tags have their own attributes to certain extents, right? Their own attributes to certain extents. The P tag, along with pretty much every other tag in HTML, are allowed to have these things called the ID tag, right? The ID tag. So if we type in I and then D, this is a unique, as it says right here, a unique ID for, and it must be completely unique for this whole document, which means this whole file, this should be the only ID with this name, right? With this name. So just like we did the href, we say ID equals and then a name for it. We said this is going to be called banana. So we'll copy this and paste banana in here. So this is a normal paragraph tag, but it has the attribute of ID, and that ID is equal to banana, right? The ID is equal to banana. So if we save this, refresh our page, and now when we click on this link, you'll see we now go down to the bottom to that banana content. So it shows up, all right? See it again in action. Scroll up, click, scroll up, click, scroll up, click, and we always get teleported down, which is super, super cool and super, super convenient. Any questions on that? If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. I don't see anything right now, so we're gonna chug on forward. So that's 3 different types of links. There are more links. For example, if you wanted to make an email link, you have to type in this thing called mail to : and then you put in an email address. So eharmon@rootkit.org. Now, when you click on this link, email link. Now, when you click on this link, it will try to email eharmon@rootkit.org, and you can see when I click on that, it tries to bring up the mail app. All right. There's a bunch of other extra optional things you can do. We won't go into hrefs anymore, but effectively, this is how you can do linking of pretty much anything you can think of. Right? Pretty much anything you can think of. Before moving forward, I guess we should talk about comments, because comments are pretty much in every single language. So to make a comment here, you can type some text, and just like in every other page in VS Code, you can do control question mark or the slash, and it will make a comment tag. All right. To type out a comment tag, it will be the opening tag, exclamation mark, dash dash, type in your comment. And to say your comment is over with, you do dash dash and then a closing tag. And this by default is a multi line comment. So you can have as many lines in the comment as you want, and it will show up. And it doesn't show up on the page at all. Alrighty, let us trek on. Can you move your head? Yes. Am I blocking? Maybe I should put myself over here. I think that should be out of the way. All right, let us continue on, shall we? So we talked about links. Next, let's do images. All right, images. Images are pretty much the only really visual, pretty thing we can get with HTML by itself, right? With HTML by itself. To add an image to our page, we will use the image tag, right? The image tag. This is purely going to be IMG, and then we can close it off, and it didn't automatically. Okay, this is one of our special tags. You capitalized all the letters of the word at the end. What word did I capitalize? because all these tags, everything here is lowercase. This was the only one in all caps. Are you talking about the first letter of these ones? No. No, that's just what I do to make it... This is purely any text you want. This is purely any text you want. This is just what's going to show up here on the web page. So I just do that normally when I'm writing stuff. But that's totally up to you on what you want to show up. Now, the image tag is going to be one of those exception tags. Right? It's going to be one of those weird exception tags that don't require a closing tag, right? Don't require a closing tag. So you can just have image and that's it. You don't need any closing tag. Now, image, just like the A tag, which I'll call a lot of times a href, all right, kind of is useless by itself. So if I refresh, you'll see the image tag is in here, but it's kind of useless by itself. All right. It requires you to have one attribute in order to make it actually do something. All right. What is that attribute? The source attribute, SRC, SRCs. This is the source of your image. Now, just like your hrefs here, your image could be an image on any website anywhere, and you can link to it with the quote-unquote absolute path, right? The fully qualified domain name with the protocol in the front, right? Or you can use a relative path, which is going to be referring to a file here in our website folder. We currently don't have an image in here, so let's link to an image not in our not local to us. For the email code line, does it actually bring you to your email? Click on it and see. Click on it and see. This won't bring you to your email. This will get you to try to email. So this will make it so you automatically are trying to email me. So if you were to click on this link, your email provider will automatically pull up a blank brand new email with my email in the to column or the to section. There's a bunch of extra stuff you can add in here, like a default title for the email, or you can add a basic body for the email. You can look into that into your own time. I put my email instead of yours. That's fine. You can do any email you want. This is just going to put this email in the to section. All right, the to section by default. So, it brings up a different YouTube window. Don't really worry about it too much. All right, it's more so just so you know this exists. We're not going to spend any more time on it. All right, so for our image one, let's get an image. Here's an image, this logo. Let's right click on it. I can't see the image in here, so let's inspect. All right, let's inspect this image. Please don't be an SVG or something else that's weird. I really don't want to look around for this. All right, so we're gonna go Google an image. Let's go to, not videos, let's go to images. Here we go. We got an image. Let's copy image address. All right, copy image address. Let's post it in the source section. So we have our image right here. It's linking to some image, where this image right here, wherever it exists. If we refresh now, you'll see, the image shows up. It's very, very large, right? It's very, very large by default, right? Images by default will be rendered in their full complete size, which is not always convenient. As you can see right now, it's kind of crushing everything else we have here. So there are more attributes that you can use in order to mess around with the image. So if we look here, they talk about some of them. Source is where the image is. Alt is for alternate text. So if the image for some reason doesn't render, it will display this text in its place. Width is how wide you want it, and height is how high you want it. This is going to be in pixels, right? This is going to be in pixels. If you only set a width or you only set a height, it will automatically scale the picture. So the width or the height that you didn't enter in will go down proportionally. What do I mean by that? Let's see. If I do width and I want it to be, let's say 100 pixels wide, you'll see it automatically scales the height of it based off the proportions of the image. So now it's 100 wide and however tall it needs to be based off its original dimensions or the original proportions. If I enter in a height and say height equal to 100, so now I have width equal to 100 and height equal to 100, it will make it into a perfect 100 by 100 square. But it will also distort the image. So you can see the image is now distorted. If I remove the width and only have the height section here, you'll see when I refresh, it now is no longer distorted. Because again, if you only have the width or only have the height, it will automatically scale the image to the correct proportions and it will match whatever proportions you gave it in regards to. So in this sense, height, it's exactly 100 pixels high. The width, we don't know. We don't know how wide it is. And then vice versa. When we said the width with no height, it's going to be exactly 100 pixels wide. We don't know the height. All right. So those are some additional options you have. All right, let us continue on here. Talk about headings, paragraphs. Paragraphs are pretty straightforward. BR tags. So BR tags are your break tags or line break tags. This is a way for you to immediately get spacing. It's the equivalent of you doing enter or a new line character, all right? It's you forcing effectively a new line character. Because if we look at our web page here and we look at these links show up one after each other because we have these BR tags here. If we remove these BR tags and save and then refresh, you'll see they all try to show up on the same single line, right? The same single line. Why don't these ones show up on the same single line? Great question. Like I said, these have a bunch of default CSS attached to them, and that CSS is styling. So any styling, bolding, size, whether it should be on the same line as other stuff, those are all styling. Those are all styling. So the styling on this by default will try to force it to not be on the same line as something else. And if we look here, you'll see that it has this thing called display block, which will try. You can see here if you hover over it, this H1 tag is taking up the entire width of the screen because it's being like, no, this is my section. No one else is allowed to live here. But if we look at the A tags here, when we hover over it, it's only that little area there. Only that little area that is going to be showing up as blue because it is only occupying that space because the default CSS attached to it is different, right? Is different. All right, so I'm going to add those BR tags back so we can get that those new lines in here. You can see there's kind of an issue here with our external link. It's kind of showing up right beside the image. That's because it also, to get it show up properly, so all underneath it, we're going to need another BR tag right above it, right? So that way it shows up underneath, right? Again, HTML is all about scaffolding and learning about this scaffolding, and there's a million ways you can go about this, and it's its own whole thing all by itself. Additionally, any tag can be nested into any other tag, all right? Think of these as Legos, all right? As Lego bricks. All Lego bricks, regardless of their color, all right, whether it's a yellow Lego brick or a red one or a blue one or a green one, they look different, but they can always be stacked on top of each other and made into something. Same thing here with our HTML. These can all be stacked on top of each other and made into something bigger. What do I mean by that? We're using all of these tags right now singularly. What I mean is we have a body tag and everything's nested inside of that body tag. It doesn't have to be that way though. You can do infinite nesting of infinite tags inside of any other tag infinitely. All right. So let's kind of see that in action. I want everything here to be a link. I want our whole website just to be a big link. I'm making a scam site. So no matter where you click on my site, it's going to send you to a malicious link. All right. How difficult is that? Not difficult at all. We want everything to be a link. So we say our A tag, but we don't want to end our A tag here. We want everything to be in our A tag. So at the very bottom, we're going to have our closing A tag. And just to make it look nicer, I'm going to tab all this up and I'm going to say href equals bad site, right? .html. This page does not exist, right? We never made this page. That's not the point. The point is now if I refresh, did I mess something up here? All right, it looks like only our image is linking right now. So you can see if I hover over the image, you can see the mouse icon changes from this to this. That's how we know it's a link. If I click on it, you'll see it tries to take us to that bad site. So it looks like it's working until it hits these other A tags, and these other A tags are basically canceling it out. So another example we could do here is maybe like H1. So make everything inside of an H1 tag and refresh. And now you'll see everything is really, really massive, right? By default, right? Because it's all inside of an H1 tag, all right? Not everything, because it kind of gets, these are, the paragraph has some default styling that will overwrite the H1 tag, right? That will overwrite the H1 tag. That's why these ones look different. These ones are all H1s because the A tags don't have any special styling to overwrite the styling of the H1 tags. If that's kind of confusing, don't worry, we're getting into CSS next. So hopefully that will make a little bit more sense when I'm talking about all this styling, right? But again, you can stack these infinitely. You can stack these infinitely. I'm going to remove the H1 tag here. All right, and that's pretty much all of the tags, except for one last tag that we'll talk about. The last tag we'll talk about is the div tag, right? The div tag is the most common tag you will see. It stands for divider. Doesn't really matter the verbiage of it. Div is basically your blank canvas. Your blank canvas. What does that mean? By default, on pretty much every browser, it will have absolutely no styling attached to it. It has absolutely no styling attached to it. It's basically a blank canvas. It's a blank piece of paper for you to start stroking your paint strokes on and to make something beautiful with it. It is absolutely nothing and you make it into something. All right. This is the most common tag because people like starting from something that will have nothing attached to it, and then they can create on top of it without worrying about any weird default behavior, right? Any weird default behavior. Div tag, you can just put text into it and see, it will just display. It will just display the text. There's absolutely no styling attached to it. So if we do our inspect here, we can see the div, by default, I guess it just has the display block styling attached to it, but it's pretty empty. All right, it's pretty empty compared to the A tag. There's a lot more stuff here in the A tag, or the image tag. There's a lot more stuff here in the image tag, or the H, any of the H tags. You'll see there's a lot of CSS. All right, the div tag, on the other hand, is pretty much a blank canvas, which is why it's so appealing. If you go to pretty much any website, so let's go to this one, inspect, you'll see here lots of div tags. All right, most common tag. It has absolutely nothing attached to it. How people make the div tags into something, they paint the pretty picture, is they use CSS. So this class thing here, this class attribute, is referring to some type of styling from the CSS files, all right? Which we'll get into next. What's the difference between the div tag and a normal paragraph tag? A normal paragraph tag has styling by default, all right? It has a bunch of styling attached to it by default, but also not everything you want to be a paragraph. For example, if you look at this page, you see this gray section behind this text here. See this blue area in this text here? You see this like gray part on the top, and there's like this blue border here on this side. Those aren't really paragraphs. These are just kind of like, this whole thing isn't really a paragraph per se. This is arguably maybe a paragraph, but a lot of this stuff here isn't a paragraph per se. So what divs allow you to do is paint these pretty pictures without using the paragraph tag, because not everything is a paragraph. So you can see here, this whole thing is a div because it paints that pretty picture, and then inside of it you have some paragraphs which are going to be displaying the text. All right, you can see this, actually this whole thing is a div, and inside of this div there are two more divs. There's this top and this bottom part. This gets into the scaffolding part of HTML. This we're not going to go too much into right now, because that's we got to finish up some other stuff first. Depending on how many days we have left over, we could go into this a little bit more if you guys will allow, or if you guys, sorry, not allow, if you guys want. All right, it's totally up to you guys. But learning how to nest things is its own whole lesson for your div tags. But you'll see in sight you have like a nest inception here. It's best when you're learning HTML to look at other websites' HTML. See how they lay things out. See how they go about it. So you can learn, because it's all about how you set up your scaffolding correctly. Because you'll see here, there's lots of scaffolding they have set up. All right. Websites aren't as straightforward as they seem initially when you want to make them. You have to really detail out every little bit. And if you don't, you'll run into a lot of issues, particularly when it comes to mobile compatibility, because it's really nice when a site works on mobile, right? Well, if you don't do the scaffolding correct, it won't look right on the mobile devices. Divs allow enhancing to paragraphs, basically. Got it. Yeah. Think of divs literally as a blank canvas that is ready for you to paint on, right? So you can write, like if I give you a blank piece of paper, you can write a paragraph in that paper, but you can still paint a picture on the paper and then write the paragraph on top of it. All right. The div is pretty much a blank canvas for you to paint on. Let us go back to our site here. So before we end today, I want to just hit on real quick the styling, right? And how to go about doing CSS. Okay, we'll talk about this one real quick. So this is not something you want to do too often, but you can do it. Every single tag will allow you to use the attribute style, right? The attribute style. So the attribute style will allow you to add CSS within this string here. Within this string here, you can add CSS. You can use this style attribute on every tag, on every single tag. We haven't learned CSS, but to set the text color, we could do something like color, then colon, and there's a lot of pre-built colors. You can also use hex or RGB values. So let's say coral. All right. If we Control S and refresh, you'll see now this ASDF now has a different color to it. So this is a way you can write inline CSS. Not what you want to be doing, right? Do not recommend this. It is there. It is something you can do. I do not recommend it. All right. Let us real quick. I think I need to go here. All right. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. All right. CSS 3 is the latest version of CSS. So you'll usually see when you look up HTML, you'll usually see this logo, HTML5, which stands for the latest version of HTML, which is 5. And then you'll usually see CSS with its logo with a 3, which is because it's the latest version of CSS, right? This is just all branding for it, right? Trust me, everything you're doing is 5 and 3, right? Everything you're doing is 5 and 3. Don't worry too much about the versioning, etc., etc. All right, so CSS is pretty much any coloring, picturing, moving, rotating, transparency, anything you can think visual that you're used to when you look at a website, it's done with CSS, all right? HTML is for scaffolding. CSS is for making things actually look good, right? Actually looking good. Everything from setting the text font style to the way the links look, to the way the buttons look, to hovering, to the scroll bars, everything is done with CSS, right? Everything is done with CSS. You can make an internal CSS file in your head by using the style tags, all right? This is where I want to go over. This is not ideal either, but we're taking baby steps, all right? We talked about how you can do styling inline. You can also do styling in the head with the style tag. So anything inside of the style tag here is going to be valid CSS that runs on your page, all right? Valid CSS that runs on your page. Now CSS has a syntax, there we go. A syntax that looks like this. Effectively, you give it the name of an HTML tag of an ID, which you saw earlier us make that ID for making the link, or the name of a class. Then you do brackets, and inside of those brackets, so you have to have an opening and a closing one, inside of those brackets, you can put all of the properties that you want for that thing to have, right? For that thing to have. So let's give some examples here, and we're just going to speed through this. Tomorrow we'll continue with CSS, all right? So I just want you guys to mess with this after we speed through it. So if we want our, let's say our header tags, so our H1 tag, to have some custom default styling, we can say H1 brackets and then put some styling in here. Let's say our H1 tags, we want the text of them to be green by default. We can say color, colon, green, and then put a semicolon. Make sure you add those semicolons. We need semicolons here, right? Again, you don't have to, there's a bunch of pre-built-in colors that you can see show up when you're typing this out. You can use an RGB value. This is how it looks, RGB, and then you say the RGB value. You can also do hex values. So that will be the # followed by 6 hex values, which is RGB. So we can have like 11, 22, and AA. All right, I guess that's a blue color. If we go to our page now and refresh, you'll see our H1 tag now has coloring. Every single H1 tag that we ever create on this page will get this styling immediately applied to it. We can do the same thing with IDs. So if anything has an ID attached to it, which Banana down here does, we can be more specific. So setting the tag default styling is very, very broad because it's going to affect every tag on this page, which maybe you want to happen, maybe you don't. All right. You can be more specific. You can affect things based off their ID if you want. How you would do that is exactly how we referenced the ID here in our link. We're going to do # or hashtag and then banana, which is the variable name. Then we're going to do brackets, All right. And in here, we can set the styling. So let's say color, and we want the color here to be red. All right. So now anything with the ID of banana will have the color red. And if we refresh, you'll see banana down here is now colored red. Finally, so quick caveat on the ID section. This is possible. It's best not to style IDs, right? It's best not to style IDs. So even though you can do this, it's best not to do this, all right? It's best not to do this. What you want to do alternatively is make classes. Make classes, all right? These classes aren't really the same classes we've talked about before in generating objects, right? They're just a special styling class that you can make that will apply some styling. All right. How do you make a class? You do the same thing you do with ID except a period. So you do period and then give it some type of variable name. All right. Let's say this is my cool class. All right. Then we do brackets, and then in here we can say, I don't know, color and then green, and there we go. We made a CSS class called myCoolClass. Now, when we refresh the page, you'll see this affects absolutely nothing. We have to assign this class to every tag we want to have the text, the color green. All right. Now, this tag also is on every single, this attribute is on every single tag by default, just like style. This is called class, right? Class is equal to, and in here, you can put infinite classes. You can put infinite classes and you just do a space between each class. We only have one class, so I'm gonna put my cool class right here. I'm gonna copy this class and I'm gonna make it so the H2 here also has our class. I'm gonna make it so this paragraph here also has our class. So this class is a part of multiple items now. So the style will be a part of multiple things. So if we refresh, you'll see this H2 is green, this paragraph is green, but we also applied it to this div right here, which is the text right here. You can see this class did not affect the color of this text because there's an order of operations on how the rendering happens for your color. Classes are one of the first things that will render, but it can be overwritten. It is immediately overwritten by anything that you put in style. So since we have this color here in style, this will overwrite whatever we have in our class. So that is why the coral color still shows up. If we remove our style here and refresh our page, you'll see now it shows up green because it's no longer being overwritten, right? It's no longer being overwritten. So just wanted to rush through that real quick. Again, you can have as many classes as you want. They must all be named slightly different things. So I'm going to call this one ASDF. In this, I'm going to say that the text, it's font size. Font size is going to be, I don't know, 20 pixels. All right. You can have multiple classes assigned to a certain item. Space delimited. So we have myCoolClass. I'm going to do space ASDF. And then this one I'm going to do space and ASDF. So these two items now have myCoolClass and ASDF being applied to it, which is this font size and this color. So if I refresh, you'll see the font size on this and this has now changed. All right. The font size on this and this has now changed. To make it more dramatic, let me set this to like 10 pixels. Now you can see my H2 tag in this paragraph are pretty damn small, right? Pretty damn small compared to before because we altered the styling. We altered the styling. All right. So what I want you guys to do after the stream is have fun. Paint some pretty pictures using HTML, CSS, using class is ideally, we didn't talk about what CSS items exist, so you need to experiment, play around, and figure that out yourself. Effectively, that's part of your homework. There are lots of ways to figure out what CSS exists. One way is, this color is really, really cool. I want this red color with this background. How do I set this background? Steal it. You're a dev. You need to be a master thief. All right? How do we go about stealing stuff? Well, you just downloaded this website to your computer. Right click, go to inspect. When you right click over the item that you, so if I right click over color and then inspect, it will take me typically directly to that item in the HTML here. Make sure you're clicked on it. You can see I'm in the correct place because it says this code tag class, which we just learned is for some CSS styling. And then here is the word color. Additionally, this is a downloaded file, so you can alter the text here at any time. And wow, look, the website is different. All right, now you can go on Twitter and make people say obscene things. Just know this is only your local file and it is completely wiped when you refresh. So if I refresh, now it's back to normal. All right, so if I click on this, you'll see on the side over, way over there, all right, here, this is where all the CSS shows up. So if you want to know how they did this, go look at the CSS and see how they did it. It may be overwhelming at first, but mess around with it. Look at it. There's also these checkboxes, which are very, very convenient for learning new things. If you click on the checkbox and turn it back on and off and look at the page, you might see that it's affecting things. So you can see the actual background color looks like it's getting darker and lighter. I don't know how good that comes through on stream. Also the font size here. Ooh, look at that. So this is doing something. So I guess this font size affects the font size, and you can, I guess, put percentages in it. That's weird. We also saw right here, we can do pixels. I wonder how many other things we can do with font size. You can see background color is taking this thing called RGBA. It can also take RGB. It can also take hex. You can see here color, crimson. Ooh, look at that. So I guess that's how we change hex color. There's these things called padding. Not sure what it's doing, but look, it's changing things. All right. And you can go about experimenting and figuring out what all of these items are. Just look and refer to other code elsewhere. When you want to learn more about those items, go to the CSS section here on their site and see if you can find it here. If not, you can just Google. So if we go to Google, the best thing to do is type in CSS first, then space, and then the thing you want to find out more information for. For example, font size. We saw that. We saw percentages. We saw pixels. Like, what other options are there for us? We'll type in CSS space font size. Press enter, and look at that. Here's a link from the W3 schools that will tell us more about font size. So I guess we can use font size with pixels. We can use M. If we don't know what M is, then read up on it. All right. M is extremely popular to utilize. All right. Then we can do percentages and M. We can do responsive units, this thing called VW, all right, which stands for viewport width. Mess around with it, 10 viewport width, all right? Mess around with stuff, Google it, figure out what exists and all those options, all right? Figure out all those options, because there's a lot. There's a lot of CSS options. Any questions on that? Any questions on that? So as always, this code, I'll add some commenting to it and I'll upload it to the supporters chat so you guys have a copy of it. All right, so you guys have a copy of it. But tomorrow we'll go through some CSS, more CSS examples, talk about CSS more and the styling of things. We'll make some basic websites, and then we'll finish it off with just a basic intro to what JavaScript is, why it was created, what uses it, when do you use it, etc., etc., etc. All right, sound good? Any other questions before we end the stream? All right, I don't see any other questions, so I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one.